Fantastic. I present to you Nancy Gallardo.
Yay! Hi guys. So actually I was going to lead off with a little bit of who I am because there's a number of new people here. So as I said, I've been designing since I was 13 years old. I knew at 5 really what I wanted to get into. I was exposed to construction through my grandfather, who was the foreman of Hoyt Lumber, 33 years out of Ontario, California. His son, my uncle, was a general contractor, and my dad was Mr. Handyman around the house, and I was the one that would read the directions for him in assembling anything or kind of being his helper around the house. So I was taught how to use power tools from the age of 9. So I was that geek girl that kind of loved all that stuff. Junior high, got into wood shop and got exposed to drafting and architecture, and it just kind of goes from there. I attended Cal Poly Pomona Honors at Entrance for environmental architecture design, then went to Mount SAC for graphics advertising design. Those were in my younger adult years. Moved forward, I started getting into my career. My very first job was working for David Evans and Associates, a civil engineering firm. I was a civil draft person, and this was back in the day of hand drafting. I got to do things with ink on vellum, which is not erasable very much. So doing topo maps and all that, that was a lot of fun, but it was all good. Moved out to the San Fernando Valley to prepare to get married to my first husband, and I got into the marble and granite industry. I was working for Walker Zanger, which is the nation's largest marble and granite import company, and my ex-husband ran Roma Marble Company for 26 years, so that was kind of all in the family. Endured my first layoff in '92. We were expecting a lot of worldwide huge contracts, didn't happen. Got laid off. Got into some catering to kind of get a paycheck to pay for our mortgage when we lived in Palmdale, and then I got exposed to Disney. Worked for Disney. I was a Walt Disney Imagineer for 11 years. I built 4 theme parks with them. Then I got layoff number 2. Hong Kong Disneyland opened, and we didn't have a new park to design and build at that time. So all of a sudden the trend starts in my industry. It's cyclical. Projects only last so long, so you're constantly trying to jump on the next project, and that's kind of what's happened. Then from there, I worked for Parsons Corporation, Pasadena, Universal Studios. I was project manager of design and construction, that I was managing all of the remodel projects inside the theme park and on City Walk, and working with outside companies and general contractors. That was like layoff number 4. Then I worked for a small fabrication company, Lexington, number 5, number 6. Oh, actually, that was number 4. Number 5 was a small design firm. So you see the scenario. Last year, in 2012, I was enduring the 5th layoff, and I'm like, I've had it. So I decided to go out on my own and do residential design and construction. Luckily, one of my contractors that I worked with at Universal, he did all of my specialty concrete work. He hooked me up with a really great project up in Bel Air. Jumped on board with that one, and that one was a year-long project, and it was really nice to make that transition because I was a single mom at the time and having to support my 2 older daughters. They were teenagers and trying to pay the bills, and luckily that transition was really nice. I started then getting into even more residential and started developing other relationships, and one of which is with my cabinet designer at Lowe's. And through the years that I had been working with him, the managers of the Lowe's stores started seeing how much money I was putting through their stores. And the Northridge store saw that how much I was doing. He says, well, did you know that the job you do, you can do here and get a weekly paycheck? And I'm like, okay, checked it out. The salary was pretty low. I couldn't do it at the time. I continued to work on my own. He kept begging me for a whole year. This is when my now husband, second husband, comes into play, and he said, you know what, just take it. You've got benefits, it's a steady paycheck, yada, yada. I did that for 2.5 years, and Lowe's went through changes like a lot of the companies. When I was actually going through those layoffs, it's company takeovers. And it's either reorganizations or whatever. Well, Lowe's gets a new CEO, and January 4th of last year, all of us project specialists for interiors get pulled into a room and said, thank you very much, we're not going to have your program anymore. So thousands of us across the country get laid off, so that's layoff number 6. I go back out on my own again. Luckily, I've got my relationships established with my general contractors, and I picked up where I left off, and I'm happy. The layoff for me with that was a blessing in disguise. Others were traumatized because they'd never gone through that. For me, I'm like, okay, I get to take a breather and I get to be my own boss again. But I appreciated the experience because while I was at Lowe's, I learned of a lot of stuff in the background that now I get to offer to my customers. And so that's actually one of the questions on here are what are the things that I can offer my customers? One of which is typically when people are doing design and construction projects, the contractor comes in and says, yeah, I can get all your materials that have been specified from your designer architect. I'll get that. And he's typically marking it up 15 to 20%. So I'm actually on the flip side. As part of my design, I'm putting the design together, speccing all the materials, and I put the entire project budget together. And with that, this program that I know of at Lowe's, you're actually saving 10 to 15, in some cases, if it's even bigger promotion, 18% off of that laundry list of materials. So that's a huge savings that when you're doing larger projects, you know, that adds up. And that way you can get even better product than what you had originally pictured because of that savings. I got a lot of questions here about granny flats and what is now officially known as auxiliary dwelling units. Last year, 2019, the state of California passed a new law that residents can transform their existing garages, or if they have outbuildings that was a she shed or something, and that they can change that and make that an auxiliary dwelling unit. What that means is it's a standalone unit that typically will have a kitchenette, a bathroom, and then a living space. So kind of like a one-bedroom studio apartment in a way. It then has its own separate entrance, and often then it actually can have its own address. So if you were 5504 such and such place, it would be 5504 and a half or 5505, and they would have their own mailbox and such, their own entrance. So that is what's considered an auxiliary dwelling unit. Keep in mind that it is on the safer side to pull permits for this. Usually when you do pull permits, it does trigger a signal to the LA County tax assessor that you are improving your property. But keep in mind, you are not getting assessed or reassessed on the whole value of your house. They are only looking at that project, and the only permits you're pulling really is on electrical and plumbing, unless you're doing any major structural. It's not on the entire amount. Auxiliary dwelling units, if you're having to do the whole kit and caboodle, it can be anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 to add that kitchenette and that bathroom. But your rate of return, if you plan on staying in your house, that's a really good investment. And I'm actually doing 2 of those projects right now for one individual. And you know, you're getting that added income. That unit could make up to $1,500 a month. And that helps you pay for your original mortgage and everything. So granny flat, auxiliary dwelling unit, it's the same thing. It's just different terms that have been used through the years. What is the one thing I like most about my business is that when I can recognize what my clients want and their vision, and I can translate that and pull out of my pea brain the design and then make that come to fruition, and it's exactly what they wanted, and they had that smile on their face. That's what makes me happy. So anyway, Nancy, the Get Her Done girl, let me make your home the happiest place on earth.